Hi, I'm Jennifer Napier, and you're listening to Chasing Dreams with Amy J.
Welcome to Chasing Dreams podcast with Amy J. Amy believes that realizing a life without regrets is achieved by taking chances, chasing your dreams, making moves, and overcoming your doubts. The Chasing Dreams podcast will help you overcome life's obstacles, believe in your potential, and inspire you to face your fears. And now here's the woman who is passionately pursuing her dreams, Amy J.
Hey Dream Chasers, this is Amy J, and you are listening to Chasing Dreams episode number 84. 84 down, and we're still having a great time, and I'm still bringing my friends on. So today, my friend Jennifer A. Napier is on the show, and she went to UMBC with me, which is the University of Maryland, Baltimore County. She was a pre-med biology major, and 8 years later, she found herself graduating from law school and studying for the Maryland bar exam. This past January 2017 marked 10 years since Jennifer was admitted to the Maryland bar. She began her legal career as a staff attorney for the nonprofit House of Ruth Domestic Violence Legal Clinic, representing victims of domestic violence in protective order, peace order, and family law proceedings. After 4 years there, Jennifer moved on to the Maryland Department of Labor, Licensing, and Regulation, where she conducted unemployment insurance appeal hearings as a hearing examiner. In October 2015, Jennifer was appointed as an administrative law judge for the Maryland Office of Administrative Hearings, and she now conducts hearings in contested cases involving over 30 state agencies and over 500 types of hearings. And she's here on the show today, took some time out from her busy life and probably the very small free time she has to talk with us and share her story. So thank you, Jennifer, taking that time to share what's happening with you. How are you?
I'm great, and thanks for having me. I've been looking forward to this for quite some time. I know we talked about doing this some time ago, so I'm glad we're finally getting there.
Yeah, the show, guess what? Man, now I'm looking, 84 episodes ago, I want to say it was probably around episode 10 that I asked if you wanted to be on the show. You had said yes, but you wanted a little bit more time under your belt.
Right.
And you were trying to, and this is when she had become an administrative law judge, an ALJ. And now here you are, 2017. How is it? Is it what you thought it would be?
It's what I thought it would be and more. We cover so much ground in terms of subject matter that even now, like I'll see something on the docket for a colleague, and I'll say, "Oh, what is that case you have?" And I'm like, "Oh, we do that too." Like, I'm still like finding out like there are things that we do. Like the Office of Administrative Hearings, we're responsible for hearing cases that arise out of actions taken by state agencies. So, for instance, the Motor Vehicle Administration, when they have proposed suspension of a license for various reasons, we handle those cases, or the Department of Social Services, child abuse and neglect cases or public assistance cases from them, or even the Department of Safety and Correctional Services. We hear inmate grievances. So one of the cases that I found out not too long ago, we hear having to do with the Department of Natural Resources are people who do illegal oyster harvesting.
Wait, really?
Yeah, really.
Wow.
Like there's so many things. So I'm someone that loves learning about different things. Like even if it's just picking up odd facts or, learning about processes, about things that have nothing to do with my regular life. I enjoy that. So I've been enjoying that journey and, learning about all these different areas of law, and not just the law, but, these different just areas of life. Like I don't know anything about harvesting oysters or just anything having to do with the Department of Natural Resources, really. So, it's been nice. It's been exciting. And I'm hoping that maybe one day I can take all this extra random knowledge and maybe win some money on Jeopardy or something. I don't know, but
now see, hold on, because that may actually scare some people. that you're hearing cases about oysters that you know nothing about. What do you do in that kind of a situation?
Well, see, you don't have to know anything about the law as it pertains to the subject area, but not the actual subject area. That's the job of the parties. Usually there are attorneys on both sides to present all the facts that have to do with, that area. So, for instance, when I say I don't know anything about harvesting oysters, the case isn't coming down to how you actually go about harvesting the oysters and how the nets are used, but those are all things that just come out in the course of presenting the case. So it doesn't hinge on, do you have to go out 3 feet or 5 feet to catch the most oysters? But that's something that you learn in the course of hearing the case on top of hearing, the actual legal issue.
I got it. So they may bring witnesses or people who are experts to talk about that subject matter, but you're the expert on the law underneath.
Exactly.
I'm going to backtrack because that's where you are today. But, circa, I don't want to go and name numbers or years, but circa UMBC years, was that always on your radar? Because pre-med biology isn't typically a common precursor to law school.
It wasn't on my radar at all. I grew up wanting to go into the sciences. Actually, I grew up specifically wanting to be a doctor from the time I was in about the first grade. I went to high school, Eleanor Roosevelt in Greenbelt, Maryland, and I was in a science and technology program. So I went to UMBC with every intention of being a pediatrician, and then I took organic chemistry too. And I knew that there was more chemistry ahead of me if that was the path I wanted to take. And I honestly could not bear the thought of it. At that point, I realized I didn't want to be a doctor badly enough to suffer through more chemistry classes.
I think Orgo 2 has been placed on curriculums for the sole factor of weeding out who truly wants to go into med school and who's like, you know what? No.
You might be joking, but you're absolutely right, because I've had this conversation with other people, right? And they'll say, Orgo is what got me too.
Yeah, physics, right. I think, does it for some other people. But yeah, Orgo 2, I remember that was like the bane of everyone's existence.
Yeah, so like I'm that rare lawyer that actually can do math pretty well. Like I took calculus and statistics in high school, and then I took more calculus in college because, again, that's the path I thought I was going to be on. But then, and actually I wanted to apply as a psychology major, but I thought I was being practical and being a bio major because most of the prerequisites for being pre-med were in the biology major. So I was trying to be efficient. So what I did was, when I realized this isn't quite for me, I already had biology credits all the way up through genetics. And UMBC had a biopsych track, so that I didn't have to take any longer than 4 years to graduate. I just kind of refocused myself and did the biology and psychology track, and it worked out because psychology was also something I was really interested in studying. And in the course of doing that, of course, you have electives. So I took a constitutional law class, and I took a business law and ethics class, which I absolutely loved. And then I was thinking, well, so what are you going to do now? And, people had always said to me, oh, you're very logical. You should be a lawyer. And, I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm into the sciences and I'm going to be a doctor, whatever. But then I was kind of like, I think I do have some strengths there, and I enjoy the subject matter. And, next thing I know, I ended up in law school.
And so you actually took some time and, while you seemed initially hesitant, it seems from what you're saying, gave it consideration, huh? Going to law school, because that's LSATs. It's a whole new 4 years, 4 years, depending on how you do it. And then a whole new area. And you were okay with that?
I was. Well, and it wasn't all at once. When I graduated from UMBC, I actually had applied to law schools, but I decided to take a year off after UMBC, and I worked for a session at the Maryland House of Delegates for the Environmental Matters Committee, which, wasn't directly working with the lawyers, even though there were lawyers on the committee. But, you're there where the law is made and getting to observe that process. And that was really interesting. And I was saying, okay, I still think I want to do this. So, after talking to some people, which it's funny, every lawyer I talked to actually told me not to go to law school. Not anything particular to me, but just don't do it. And I find myself now telling people that want to go to law school, don't go to law school. But, it's even if someone tells you that, that's a decision that you have to make for yourself. Whether or not you think you really are going to enjoy being in that field, and, if there's a career that you can build upon the degree.
Sure. And I'm glad you came to that realization yourself, because oftentimes people seem to go into fields for someone else, and I just feel like they struggle more. Like it's more torturous for them.
Absolutely, because if you're not taking any joy or at least interest in what you're something that you're trying to undertake like that, especially we're talking at least 3 years, maybe 4. That's a long period of time to not really be into the thing that you're focusing probably 80% of your time on.
And not to mention a lot of cost.
Money. Yes.
Yes, it's true, folks. It costs money to go to law school, and it costs money when you come out.
Yes. And it costs money probably for the foreseeable future after you come off. I used to call my law degree would hang on my wall, and I'd say, oh, that's my mortgage right there. Because it's not far off from what I pay for my mortgage actually now.
Right? We can attest. Those TV shows that you see are not the norm. It's not the majority of cases. You do not make 6 figures when you come out of law school. It's a very small portion of people that do. And did you believe what people said about how much you make when you come out of law school? Or did you kind of understand that it wasn't going to be the case?
Yes and no. And I'm glad you made that comment. I knew that it wouldn't be 6 figures, especially since I was someone, I'm very big on a work-life balance. Mm-hmm. So I knew I didn't want to go to a big law firm, which is pretty much the only place you're going to make that kind of money coming right out of school.
Which is why you see it all on TV shows.
Exactly.
Right?
But at the same time, I still thought I was going to make more than I did coming out, even if I hadn't gone into nonprofit, which I guess we'll get to that, but that wasn't necessarily what I expected, to go into nonprofit. But even going to a small firm, these law schools, they give you these statistics about what the median salary is, and they give you this statistic about how many people have found employment 9 months after graduating. And it's really kind of a scam. I want to say that I went to Seton Hall. I remember the statistics for the median salary. I believe it was like $88,000, which was also far off, and it's probably still far off. Because I don't even think there are enough people on that high end to kind of artificially pull it up to 88.
Yeah, I'm like that. What was the sample size for that? Because I'm not sure I believe it.
Exactly. So going in, though, I thought I would be making closer to that, if I went into private practice, and it just wasn't that. I was working at a law firm prior to graduating when I was still in Jersey, and I was offered a job there, and it was going to be like less than $40,000. So that's kind of misleading, which is part of the reason why I tell people either not to go to law school, and that's usually the person that's collecting degrees and they just wanted to add to their collection, and not because they particularly want to be a lawyer or want to do something where the law degree really matters. Mm-hmm. But at the very least, I say do a cost-benefit analysis. Look at how much you're going to be spending, to undertake this schooling, and then look at how much you think you're going to be making when you come out, what you think that loan payment is going to be, and if it's really worth it.
That's a very good piece of advice, and can be used for actually not just law school, for med school, for farm school, all extra education. You guys should
Absolutely.
strongly consider that, because it's not necessarily the path for you if you don't actually review it from all points of views.
Absolutely.
I mean, because so Jen, you came out, and I remember having conversations, excuse me, with you during your time at the House of Ruth, and you were there, what, 4 years or something like that?
Yeah.
How did you find that job?
It was really rewarding. It was exhausting, but it was rewarding. And I assume that to some extent, all nonprofits have a problem with high turnover, just because when you're coming out of, especially having to do with the legal profession, because when you're coming out of school with all that debt, you just can't afford to be there too long typically, unless I'm sure there's some people that, if they're in a 2-income household where, the other person is making so much money that it, doesn't really affect them in terms of finances, then maybe you can stay in nonprofit for a while. But because of the high turnover, I was always doing my job and somebody else's job, because there was somebody that wasn't there. So it was exhausting for that reason, but it was rewarding because we were serving victims of domestic violence who were typically, not always, but typically also low income. So we were helping them get out of what usually was a very dangerous situation. It was more than being a lawyer, really. It was like 2/3 being a lawyer and maybe like a third almost like being a social worker, because you're helping them get services that they need and really rebuild their life. Maybe sometimes having to find alternative housing if they live with an abusive partner. Around the holidays, there was a really good program, Adopt a Family, where, you help get gifts for the family because, it's already traumatic enough, a family breaking up possibly, having to deal with violence and perhaps counseling. At least to have maybe one bright point during the holidays is significant for people. And, people really appreciate that you care. And it's not like we were giving flat screen TVs,
sure.
but, to have people appreciate and really say, I appreciate everything you've done for me. Just getting a card, especially since you never get anything in the mail now anyway. Like I used to get physical thank you cards, and it meant the world because, I knew that I really had made a difference for this person. And that was great. And that was the part that I hated to leave behind, the long hours and, feeling maybe a little overworked sometimes. Not so much, but, the clients, that was the rewarding part, because also there weren't billable hours, so they're not getting charged. So normally when an attorney has a client, they're billing by, a 1/10 of an hour, for their time, even talking on the phone. Well, these clients, they're not getting billed, so they'll just talk to you, and not just about, their case, but, what's going on in their life. So, I got to have like relationships with these people too. And so it was probably the best thing I've done in my career.
And now, actually, speaking of your career, did you, because, when we spoke during those times, people were considering jobs. We were talking about our friends and the struggles they were having in finding jobs and careers, and how some people would take jobs wherever they could find it, doc review, as temporary sustenance for what they wanted, back and forth, finding just something to give them some kind of income for the time being. But here you are at House of Ruth. At that point, you have a job. Did you have a career path planned out? Because, even then, you could have gone any number of ways.
Not at all. I feel like often, and it depends on the person, but for me, like, goals and dreams are very fluid. Like they change. The circumstances help to shape them. And then sometimes it's just about being flexible too. So, I mean, I went into law school thinking, after having taken that business law and ethics class, I thought I was going to want to be like in-house counsel somewhere or deal with contracts or do some kind of corporate law. I took both contracts and business associations. I hated both those classes. So after that, the law firm that I clerked for when I was in law school was a small family law firm. And I realized doing that work that I really wanted to be in an area of the law where the subject matter mattered to the client personally. So not a real estate type deal where, we're dealing with someone's property. Of course, people care about their property, but, what's more personal to someone than, the people around them, their children, their relationships. So that was kind of how I at least knew I wanted to get into family law. And also, when I happened to be at this law firm, for some reason, and I won't say what the police department was, but we had a lot of clients who were the spouses of police officers in a particular police department that had domestic violence issues. And although we weren't dealing with the protective orders or peace orders, or in Jersey might be a restraining order, for those clients, I still saw those issues.
Right.
And so that experience kind of put me on the path to House of Ruth. And then when I was at House of Ruth, I had a friend that I worked with. She left and she went to unemployment. And so just in talking to her, she told me how much she enjoyed the job. And about 18 months after she left, positions became open. And I decided, okay, well, let me look into this. Let me see what this is like. And that was how I ended up at unemployment, which was rewarding in a different way. Nothing's ever going to be the same as House of Ruth, where it was a direct impact and I was directly solving, a problem and advocating for my clients. But with unemployment, I heard unemployment cases for the state of Maryland. And it felt good when you could right or wrong when there was someone that should be getting unemployment. And for whatever reason, they were unjustly denied it. And, you make that decision and they were then going to be able to get those benefits, which honestly, in Maryland, the highest amount you can get is $430 a week. But it's still, it meant everything to someone that's down on their luck and, needs the income. So that felt good. And even those people that, even if they seemed like great people and just the law wasn't on their side, so I couldn't make a finding that they were due benefits. A lot of people will say, not even knowing what the decision was, because you gave out a written decision, after the hearing. But they would even say, thank you for listening to me, or, I feel like you really heard what I had to say. And for a lot of people, of course, the money's probably more important, but feeling heard it's huge. Like, because can you imagine, if you feel like, you're down on your luck and people aren't even paying attention to me, or they're not hearing what I have to say, or they don't realize, that these things are going on. Yeah. So, and I get that same type of benefit from being an ALJ, because while it's not always unemployment, it's various different areas, but still there are people that they're just happy that someone listened to them and was respectful. Because unfortunately, like any professional, not every lawyer or judge is personable, nice, or respectful. Some people have big heads, and, so some people have had bad experiences with other judges. Probably not in my office, because luckily we have a great group of people that are very understanding and personable. But, I definitely have come in front of judges where I'm like, ooh, you're just unnecessarily nasty or condescending. And, that's not what anybody needs. So it's good to be able to at least let people have their day and have the opportunity to be heard.
Right. It's almost that saying that you hear, you gave them their day in court. You gave them a chance to feel as though they were appreciated, acknowledged, and considered.
Exactly.
So now that you're here, though, now that you're an AL judge, are there any new aspirations for you, or are you happy doing what you're doing?
I feel like it's been about a year and a half since I've been there, so I feel like I have a lot more room to grow where I am now. And I also kind of feel like I need to fill it out because I can easily see retiring from here, but I might either stumble upon something else unexpectedly, or I might just decide, okay, I'm ready to do something different. But honestly, the only thing in the legal profession I could see doing is maybe when the administration changes federally, working as an ALJ, but
maybe not just yet, but
yeah, maybe. Well, and I think there's a hiring freeze, but that's neither here nor there. But yeah, I mean, actually, to tell you the truth, when I was looking for jobs between the House of Ruth and going to unemployment, besides a few federal positions as an attorney, unemployment was the only job I applied for that was in the legal field. I was ready to do something else then. So I'm very open in terms of the future and where that might lead me.
And see, that's really cool that you have that open mindset, because sometimes, we settle and we're happy with what we have and where we are. And, it sounds like you still have room to grow or learn or expand your role at the ALJ. Do you find that you're able to get that work-life balance that you wanted, that you're able to leave the cases you've worked on behind when you walk out the door? Because and let me actually also ask that for you while you were at the House of Ruth, because sometimes I think as lawyers, people think it's easy for us to turn things on and off. And I'm not sure that was always the case. Is that the case, or what for you?
At the House of Ruth, there was kind of two stages in my career at the House of Ruth. One was much more short-lived. For maybe the first 9 months, I was only litigating protective orders and peace orders, which is like a restraining order if you're in another state. So those are a fairly quick turnaround. Those are short-term clients. So, for instance, someone gets their temporary order, and then 7 days later, you have their final hearing it's not really a permanent order, but it was an order for a year. And after that, for the most part, unless there was some other issue, I never interacted with those clients again. So that was a little easier to leave in the office because it wasn't ongoing.
Well,
but
good.
When I started with the long-term cases, which were divorce and custody, those types of cases, it wasn't completely difficult to kind of switch it on and off, but I thought about it more because there are clients that probably about 3 years that I was dealing with the long-term cases were with me. So, I talked to them every day or every other day, and, I might worry about them depending on, if they had some type of incident or there was something going on with them, of concern. So that was a little harder to turn on and off. And especially if you're preparing for, this trial and, this isn't just like one day you prepare and then you go into court, over weeks you're collecting evidence, you're doing discovery and you're interviewing people, it's at the back of your mind, if nothing else, just
sure, you're focused on it.
Yeah, and just like with anything, if you're thinking about, okay, what do I have to do for the week? Even if it's at home, you're thinking, okay, well, I've got to take out the trash and I've got to pay this bill. Just the same way you might have those thoughts while you're at work. Well, when you're at home, at least personally, I would think of it of my clients and maybe what was going on and what I had to prepare for when I was home.
Sure, and that makes sense.
And not enough to be a distraction, but the thoughts were there.
Right. So while you didn't turn it off fully, it wasn't like black and white on off. It was more of a gray. You could tone it down and continue happily in your personal life, but it was present.
Exactly.
So then when you're doing things today versus your time at the House of Ruth, and this is more a look at the life of a lawyer and the journey that we have, would you say you have more of an outside social personal life now versus law school and versus when you first came out? Like, how did that change? And was that kind of related or dependent upon the job you had?
I think really it's about the same. It's the same but different. For lack of a better word, like the level or I guess the amount of socializing I do, it's probably about the same, but it's different in that, the people around me are also in different places. So, you have people with families, and people with jobs where they really don't have the time to socialize, and people with kids. So I think the big difference for me now is, and it's not because of my job, it's because of the people around me, is that I spend time with, group A, one weekend, and then during the week I spend time with group B, and it's more because, everyone just has so many things going on that whoever's available, that's kind of where I'm socializing, when I was younger and when I first got out of school, everybody, didn't have as many responsibilities. So I did see the same people,
right?
More consistently. So I think that's part of just getting older is finding new ways to maintain those relationships and, to keep in touch, even if it's saying, okay, we're going to make a point of getting together once a month, for dinner, and just kind of having that being like a standing appointment just to make sure you get in that FaceTime with, that friend or what have you.
But see, what I love about that is, one, you've adapted to a changing situation, right? And you guys are finding some way. And, with technology today, there really isn't a lot of reasons one could give to not be able to maintain a relationship. But the difference is that you're making an effort. And I think sometimes we forget as you get older, sometimes it takes a little bit more effort than it used to. And through no fault of anyone's, it's just life as you get older. Because we talked earlier about how, Facebook has helped keep in touch with other people and with each other and even us and what's going on with each other's life. And I think sometimes we forget that. Like, people get lost in chasing their dream and doing what they want, that they forget about their friends and family. And you got to put the effort in.
Absolutely. And at least for me personally, like the people around me are an important part of my life. So, while I have my professional pursuits, really, like, yes, I'm a judge and, I do love the job that I do, but that's not even like the end all be all for me. I work because I have to pay bills. And unfortunately, I haven't hit the lottery yet. But, it's actually all those other things that the income allows me to do, visit to see family and friends and,
sure,
be there for important moments. Like, I have a nephew that he's graduating high school, this year. And, I can't wait to, be there for that. Or, the birth of, my friends and family, their children, being able to be there for that and not be working, 100 hours a week or, 80 hours a week, I guess is more reasonable, but, not always consumed with work. I think you have to have balance. Like I said before, work-life balance is huge to me.
And probably something more people should think about. And that's it's not a knock on anyone who isn't able to have a work-life balance, but, take time to see if you actually do have some kind of balance. Because I think too much of one or the other, or you could stress out, right? If you go one way or the other, fall apart.
Absolutely. And self-care is really important. Taking time taking time for yourself just by yourself is important. There's sometimes when I'll take a day off and don't tell anybody I had the day off of work. Like the only people that know I was off are my coworkers, maybe, if they happen to look at the schedule. And, you just have peace and quiet, and you can do anything you want for yourself. It doesn't have to be a big thing. It might be treating yourself to lunch, or when it's nice out, taking a leisurely stroll, around the park and getting some ice cream, or might be sitting on the couch and, binge watching whatever your favorite thing to binge watch is. But just having some time to kind of collect your thoughts and have quality time with yourself. I think that
is brilliant.
People don't really don't think about that. So many of us are so focused on others and, seeing about our parents and,
saving up our days off for holidays, activities, and graduations. I never thought of taking a day off for myself. That is I've heard of mental health day, but that's a genius thing, taking a day off for yourself and not telling anyone.
Yeah, if you can manage it. It's a little harder if you live with someone and what have you, but if you can manage it, I definitely recommend it.
Right. So don't do it and break relationships and things like that, guys. Don't lie to people, but
right.
If you can manage it and it doesn't hurt you further.
Yes. Don't get in the car and drive off and, wait for your spouse to leave and then come back, because then that just looks shady. And then it's a bigger thing than it has to be, and you're explaining.
Because it is shady.
And then when you say, I was just trying to spend quality time with myself, they might not believe you. But, if you could just tell your spouse and not tell anyone else, or if you don't have that person to kind of, check in with.
Yeah.
Then, exactly.
You could find a way, is what she's saying, I believe. Figure it out. Think about it. Plan ahead and all of that. Now,
no one's looking for anything from you, because often if you say, oh, I'm going to be off on Monday, someone might say, oh, good. Well, can you help me with blah, blah, blah? And then, depending on who you are, I'm working on being able to say no without being apologetic for it. Some people are great at that. And that's good, but I'm still working on that. So it's particularly important for me to time take off and not tell anybody.
Yeah, I don't think I learned how to effectively say no till actually I started working with my friend at the time, Andy McKinney, who gave me some great advice that helped me in actually doing that. So it is a skill that takes time, guys, to work on it. So start working on it if it's a struggle for you. But before we wrap up, I have to ask you the one question that we usually wrap up with, Jen, is what is one action you would tell a dream chaser to take today?
That's a very good question.
Every now and then I can come up with a question.
I would say that I would tell your dream chasers to, no matter what stage you are in chasing your dream or what your current pursuit is, be the best at whatever you're doing. If right now you're saving up to go to the school of your choice and you're just a cashier somewhere, be the best cashier you can be. If you are working, in a clerical position, do that and be the best that you can possibly be, because you never know who's looking. There might be someone that can help you out that it's in your chosen field or is along that path to because let's face it, dreams aren't always having to do with your career, but it might be somebody, that is in a position to help you. And if you impress them, even if it's something unrelated to what they do. So let's say, they just see that you're dedicated. That might be enough to say, hey, what is it you're interested in doing? And then it starts a conversation and they say, oh, really? Well, I do that. And, let me see if I can help you. And you just never know who's watching. So just be the best at whatever you're doing. And I think it goes a long way.
I love that. And I think it's true. I mean, don't be arrogant about it or a jerk. Please don't do that, but be the best. I think that's great advice, Jen, because so are you saying in all aspects, regardless of what the task or whatever you're doing at that moment, do your best and be your best?
If you have to do it anyway, why be mediocre? Do the best. Try to stand out.
Yeah, I'm going to leave it at that. That was fantastic. So, Jen, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day and your free time that you have to come on the show, share your story of your journey of how you came to become an ALJ and enjoy it and love what you're doing. And we appreciate it.
And I appreciate you having me. It's been fun.
And folks, that was Jennifer Napier. She's an awesome friend. She's an awesome person, and she is doing amazing things as an ALJ and just in life in general. And I hope you guys will take her words to heart, regardless of whatever you're doing. Be the best at that. I mean, don't be arrogant and a jerk, but be the best at it humbly and know that somebody's seeing that. Okay. So take that advice, run with it. You guys can find all the show notes for this episode over at chasingdreamshq.com/episode 84. That's episode 84. And until next time, guys, keep chasing.
Thank you so much for listening to Chasing Dreams. Amy would love to connect with you and hear all about your pursuit of chasing your dreams. Connect with her on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram via @ChasingDreamsHQ. Or you can find Amy on Twitter @AmyJ21. That's AIMEEJ21. Be sure to visit headquarters over at ChasingDreamsHQ.com for more inspiration, motivation, and resources to help with your own dream chase. We hope you'll join Amy next week, and until then, keep chasing.